Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. The first segment of the show, we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. The second segment of the show, we play you the clip of the week, and we run you through the fan Q&A, and that's it. So if you like that, hopefully you stick around. Again, this show uploads each and every single Monday, so if you're a Dolphins fan, I hope you guys check out the show even more. So let's start with the news you need to know about. The Dolphins, in case you didn't know, and I'm sure everybody does know because if they watched the game Sunday, Dolphins claim Taco Charlton off waivers. The Dolphins have claimed Taco Charlton off waivers. Ian Rappaport of NFL.com tweets out, Charlton will be eligible to play for the Dolphins. We know Charlton okay, there you go. So obviously if you don't know, Taco Charlton was a first round pick in 2017, just behind Charles Harris. He, obviously had a great college career at Michigan. He had a good first game. So that was good. He had a sack. He was active. He gave a great effort. Now, whether that was just because he was going against his old team or not, we'll have to see. Because, that's been a big issue with him is his motor. Even coming out of college, that was a big problem with him. So, effort has been a problem with him. Hopefully we continue to see the effort that we saw against Dallas. I mean, the sack that he had was all effort because it was a covered sack. Dak got all day long. Charlton hustled. Obviously, Dak's got a lot of speed, so, for him to hustle, chase him down and sack him is great. He's an athletic defensive end, too, which is good, especially in today's league. You need defensive ends like that who are good pass rushers and can bring a mobile quarterback down. Because, if you look over our division, you look at Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, both of those guys can get outside of the pocket on a regular basis. So to have someone like him with that athletic ability is a good thing. He's got great length as well. His run defense is, I think, we'll have to continue to see it because it's such an important thing in this defense is being able to set the edge. And sometimes you ask your outside linebackers in this scheme to do it a little bit more than you do your defensive ends. So I also think Taco's versatile enough that he could stand up and help us at the edge a little bit. We'll see how the Dolphins use him in the future as he gets acclimated to the scheme more. But I like the signing. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. We have nothing to lose. He's a former first-round pick. He has a lot of potential. Brian Flores is a good coach, so hopefully something happens there. And I think Robert Kandichi, or however you say his last name, also a first-round pick out of Ole Miss. Who else do we have on the roster that's not playing right now? Maybe I'm forgetting someone. I'm tired, guys. I apologize. But Robert, he's obviously former Charles Harris, obviously Taco Charlton. Hopefully these three guys for the rest of the year. Whenever Robert plays, I think he can only come back week 8, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But, it's going to be interesting to see how those guys play out. But yeah, Taco, good first game. Especially with being only being with the team for a few days. To have a sack is pretty good. Let's see here. I think that's it for really the news. Oh yeah, this last news story. NFL to investigate Dolphins tanking. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins claim they aren't tanking, but the fans are skeptical of that. Turns out the NFL is a bit skeptical too. The league's competition committee is likely to look into whether the Dolphins have purposely stripped down their team in 2019 in order to lose games to secure the number 1 overall pick in the 2020 draft. This is a quote from a reporter. He says, quote, the committee will probably have the questions posed to it again, if not by the media, maybe by the teams. It's likely the competition committee will have to address this issue. So yeah, who cares, to be honest with you? If you're anybody with any kind of a brain, we all understand, whether you want to call it tanking or not. Obviously the team's trying to win, but, the coaching staff and the players. But when Chris Greer came out and said, this team isn't going to compete for a playoff spot or a Super Bowl, before he made all of these moves, you can kind of just read between the lines there. Before he made the moves that he made, he thought this roster was not capable of competing for a playoff spot. He said that in a press conference. Then he decided to strip down the roster. So if you want to call it tanking, you can call it what you want. I'm not here to sit here. It is what it is. But we all get it. I don't think that if you're the NFL League Committee, I don't think you need Batman or Sherlock Holmes to figure out what the heck's going on in Miami. So, I mean, it is what it is. The thing that I saw a lot of comments in last week's episode where they were very, not negative, but like, the thing that I was saying is I am, I guess I came off as skeptical to see how this tank goes. And I'm not getting off topic because this pertains to tanking, or in the subject of tanking. And like how I questioned how we would be able to execute some of the assets that we've obtained from other teams. I'm fully on board for this. Not the losing. I'm not on board for that. I'm talking about I shouldn't say on board. I have accepted the fact of what is going on. I don't want you guys to think that I haven't. It could go either way. It's a 50-50 thing, really. It could go really well or it could go really bad. I mean, that's, life. But I don't think it's going to fail. I don't want to sound like I think it's going to fail. I don't think it's going to fail. I don't know if it's going to fail. It's impossible to know. But, you can't ignore the questions that are out there. Of tanking, and I don't even care about the decision makers. I'm talking about the actual strategy of tanking. It's very risky, and if you don't get it right, you are going to be a very bad team for a long time. But the thing that I will say before we move on, that Chris Greer also said, that I thought was interesting, is he said that they're going to be competitive. We're going to be competitive and aggressive in free agency, and we have a ton of cap space. I've heard some other people say, in the Dolphins sphere on Twitter and your team stream, that the Dolphins would overpay for free agents just to be more competitive this upcoming season. I don't believe that. Or they would have to overpay free agents so teams or players would have to come play in Miami. I don't believe that. Because depending on what kind of player we're going after, I think it's the circumstantial. I think it's the circumstance. But I think not only is this team going to build through the draft, but they're also going to build through free agency. So I think that's a good thing. The fact that he said that they're going to be aggressive in free agency gives us even more of a shot to be a more competitive team, because you don't want to just be a draft team. That sounds all good and well. Like, you want to build through the draft, and that's what this team is going to do. That's how they're going to fix, some of their major holes, develop and build through the draft, and gain assets, and really put an emphasis on draft capital, which we haven't done in the past, 10 years. That's the difference. But still staying active in free agency is very, very important, because that's another draft, basically, or another avenue that you can improve your team. I just like that I heard that from them, because despite what everybody says, like the Patriots, they're like, oh, they always... it never seems like they make any big moves. That's not true. If you look at the history of the Patriots, they take chances on people that maybe that are outcast somewhere else, but they're all big name guys. So most of the guys, at least, that have made a huge difference. Rodney Harrison was a free agent. I'm blanking. Oh, Teddy Bruschi was a free agent for that 08 team. Randy Moss. There's a lot of them. Corey Dillon from the Bengals. There's a lot of them. So every team in the National Football League builds through free agency in some way, and it helps your team a very, very, very good amount. So I was glad I heard that they're going to be aggressive, because I was really worried that we were going to not do anything. I'm serious, not doing anything in free agency this upcoming season. So it was good to hear that, and that just improves our chances for getting better, and hopefully we make the right moves in free agency this upcoming season. So let's move on to the box score, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, we didn't win the game, which is upsetting, but there's not a lot to be excited about, but the one thing that we can all be excited about is I feel like Josh Rosen and the offense is getting better, which is a good thing. And we should have literally led at halftime, if we're being honest. And we're going to get into what I thought of the game as a whole, but it was really disappointing. I'm not going to name any players because I'm going to save it. It was really disappointing to see our best players play that bad. Out of all the players on the field to not play well you can't have your best players play like they did on Sunday, and we're going to get into that right now. All right, so let's get to the box score. The Dolphins fall to the Dallas Cowboys 6-31. We'll start with the offense because I think there's some positives there. We'll get into defense. Josh Rosen finished 18 of 39, which is not very good, for 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Preston Williams led the team in receiving on the day with 4 grabs for 68 yards. He averaged 17 yards a catch. Could have been a lot better for Preston Williams. Devontae Parker came in second in receiving with 3 grabs for 56 yards, averaged 18 yards a catch. Kenyon Drake finished third with 3 catches and 34 yards. Jakeem Grant finished fourth, and that's where we're going to end it, with 4 catches for 27 yards. So let's start with the passing game. I thought Josh played a very good game. He, especially in the first half before Jesse got hurt, the offense was moving at a very, very good clip. The play calling I thought was really good. We weren't very limited because we were getting pass protection, so our play calls were better because of the protection was good. We couldn't finish drives though. We were in the red zone 4 times. I believe all 4 times that was in the first half. Maybe we got one in the second half. I don't think so though. But the ones I'm talking about are in the first half. 4 times that was right before half. 4 times we got into the red zone. 2 of them we settled for field goals. 1 of them we've missed a field goal, and the 4th one we fumbled the ball. So, and one of those drives I know we dropped a touchdown, which should have been challenged. But I mean, what it is. You know, Preston should have caught the ball, and then obviously, who knows what would have happened if Kenyon didn't fumble. But regardless, we at least 4 times in the red zone in the first half. Like that's a good amount of times to be in scoring position. But we have to finish those drives, and we didn't do it. Whether that be penalty or fumble or mental mistake or a drop, we just didn't do it. But it was good to see the offense play like that. I mean, we were getting consistent drives for this offense. You know, against a solid Cowboys defense. I wouldn't say great. It was good. It was good to see that. It was good to see the movement. And I probably shouldn't say red zone because the first time we were a little bit out of it. We were in the opponent's territory. But I think the other 3 times we were in the red zone. But anyway, we had scoring opportunities, and they were all 4 really good drives, but they just got stalled out. So it was good to see that. It was good to see that. Preston Williams continues to have drop issues, which is weird. It seems to me that Devontae Parker, the only thing that he can do well is catch a 50-50 ball, for God's sakes. He also had a drop that would have at least set us up the 3 or 4 yard line, if not a touchdown. If he gets he's a big dude. He's a good run after the catch receiver. So the receivers continue to struggle in the drop department. So there was really no improvement there from week 2 to week 3. Jakeem Grant continues to struggle, which is weird. I don't understand what the heck's going on with him. I really don't. He struggled into field punts. He had a better day today, but I still feel like he could play better. So yeah, the receiver core is very, very underwhelming right now. It's disappointing because there are plays there to be made. I can't wait for Albert Wilson to come back because I feel like he hopefully could be our slot receiver, because right now that's really lacking in this offense is a consistent player to play at that position. I feel like Allen Hurns had a good chance to be that for us, but obviously he got hurt in this game. But that is severely lacking right now. And for some reason, Jakeem Grant can't play the slot position. I don't know why he can't play the slot position, but that was a thing with Adam Gates too. So there's obviously something he does wrong that he just cannot play the slot position. He's a good route runner. He's not a bad route runner. I don't understand what the heck's going on with that. But when Albert comes back, I think the offense will be better. But that is severely lacking, is a solid slot receiver in this offense. And it's so important to the offense. So that needs to be, hopefully it gets better when Albert comes back. The tight ends were, they're meh. They really didn't do anything in the passing game. Mike Gesicki, he finished the game with 3 catches for 9 yards. We just couldn't push the ball down the field in the second half at all. In the first half, we were moving the ball at a good clip, but the tight ends need to do better in the passing game, obviously, and it's hard to do that because most of the time we're playing max protection. So Mike Gesicki's not even really out there that much because of the bad pass protection. Like people don't see that kind of stuff, but it's all schematic. And obviously Gesicki's not the greatest the blocker in the world, so it just limits his game and it limited it last year too. Like it's very unfortunate because he's a very talented player. Hopefully in the future, and I hope he's still on the team, he will be on this team because he's very talented and he just hasn't gotten a good shake. And hopefully down the road, he gets some more opportunities if pass protection shows up, and hopefully Jesse Davis is not too badly hurt, because that would be very unfortunate. And that's really when the offense went down the toilet, is when Jesse got hurt. So, yeah, I believe in terms of rushing, Kenny Drake finished for 13 carries. 12 carries for 38 yards. He averaged 3 yards a carry. Kalen Ballage, 8 carries for 17 yards. And then Josh Rosen, real close behind Kalen for 3 carries for 13 yards. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Kalen, but Kenyon actually made a lot of plays that weren't there, other than the fumble, obviously. He needs to play more, and we've talked about that before. But yeah, and before we move on to the defense, I really felt like Josh Rosen had a good game. He made plays when they weren't there. That flea flicker play was amazing. I mean, he eluded the rush, kept his eyes downfield, and it delivered a perfect ball. To have the arm strength to be off balance like that, make a throw like that, is very impressive. And his touch on the deep ball is insanely good as well. And unfortunately, he threw a lot of balls in tight windows. The one thing that he needs to get better at is he needs to understand when to give up on a play, especially on first and second down. You cannot take a sack on first and second down. If you have enough time and there's nothing open, then you just have to get rid of the ball, especially if you're a pocket passer. That's something that he needs to get better at. I don't think it's a decision-making thing. I don't think it's a read. He just doesn't give up on a play. If he was a mobile quarterback, it would be less of an issue, but he's not. He can move in the pocket and he can get outside of the pocket, but he's not running for 15 yards. Like, he's gonna stay either left or right at behind the line of scrimmage or in the pocket. So he needs to just do a better job of understanding, okay, there's nothing open. It's first and second down. Don't want to be in a 2nd and 20 or 2nd and 15, 2nd and 13. I'm gonna throw the football away. That kind of stuff he just needs to get a little bit better at, and just giving up on a play. Giving up on a play. And sometimes when he doesn't give up on a play, that leads to a big play. And that happened a couple times in that game. But overall, he played very well. The touchdown where it should have been a touchdown to Preston Williams was just a beautiful throw, dude. The throw to Devontae Parker was on the money. I mean, if he was on a team that was competitive, he would be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I really do believe that. He has a bright future ahead of him, whether it's here or somewhere else. And I've always said that about him. I've always liked his game. He's continuing to get better. His decisiveness, I feel like, is a lot better. And his confidence in his throws is a lot better than it has been in the past. So, it just, he continues to get better. Hopefully, he stays in Miami after this season. And we give him a team. And I hope he continues to show it. Because I think against lesser teams, he's going to have really good games. I mean, the Cowboys are a good team. The thing that makes the Cowboys good, and the reason why we lost like we did, is just because their offense is really good. They've got a lot of talent there, so you have to play from behind. You got good pass rushers like DeMarcus Lawrence, Robert Quinn. Even though they've struggled to get after the passer this year. It obviously helped when Jesse left. But anyway, the point is I feel like when he doesn't have to score, I mean, the Cowboys are going to score 21 points against anybody, not named a great defense. Like, that, they're a good team. So when he doesn't have to score 50 points to win a game, for God's sakes, I'm excited to see how that looks when he's in a competitive setting in the fourth quarter. Like, I think he's a very talented quarterback. So very, 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 very excited about his growth as a player, and that's one thing I'm excited to see. Excuse my dogs, guys; they're so loud. It's insane. So let's get into the defensive side of the football. Dak Prescott finished 19 of 32. It's actually not as good as I thought it was going to be. 246 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Receiving wise, Amari Cooper finished with 6 catches for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jason Witten 3 catches for 54 yards. Devin Smith 2 catches for 39. Randall Cobb finished with 2 catches for 23. In terms of rushing, Ezekiel Elliott finished with 19 carries for 125 yards, averaged 6 yards a carry. Tony Pollard finished with 13 carries, 103 yards. So the biggest problem I have with the defense this week is just Xavier Howard played very bad. And again, Amari Cooper is one of the better route runners in the league, so it is what it is. But I felt like there could have been better coverage, especially on the post touchdown. Very lackluster defense by the entire group on that play, and I felt like he could have had better coverage there. And I just felt like he didn't have a good game overall. I mean, he didn't even finish the game. Obviously, he got ejected, which was ridiculous. He shouldn't have got ejected, but he didn't have a good game. Bobby McCain didn't have a good game. His open field tackling was terrible. He gave up a lot of big plays because of his tackling. He needs to be better. So yeah, those are the two best players in the secondary in that game, and they just played. They didn't play very good. They played very good at all. So that was very disappointing to see. It was very, very disappointing to see. In terms of some highlights, Jonathan Banamosi had a great open field tackle on, I can't remember who it was. This team continues to struggle as a defense on getting off the field on 3rd and long for some reason. And it's a lot of just mental mistakes. Like the one to Jason Witten on 3rd and 20 is unacceptable. First of all, why are you coming up on a 3rd and 20 if Dak runs there, he's not picking up 20 yards without someone catching him. So there was very bad defense there to give up that 3rd down and long. And there's other 3rd downs that we should have gone off the field on. Eric Rowe continues to struggle, which is ridiculous. He obviously needs to play better. The defensive line, actually, especially in the first half, played a very good game. And then the second half, when the game kind of started to get away from them, they started getting big plays. In the passing game, the defensive line kind of, as the game went on, withered a little bit. But at the beginning of the game, they were very good, especially against the run. I like the game plan we had for the run on defense. It wasn't easy, especially in the first half. I felt like because of the game is the reason they continue. Well, the reason the run game was so successful is a lot of those yards came in the second half. So yeah, the defensive line I didn't think played terribly. The pass rush could have been definitely could have been a little bit better, but we sent a lot of 3-man rushes and dropped a lot of people back in coverage at times, which I'm a big fan of, especially when you mix it in. I feel like it's a good thing to do, and I feel like we were successful on some of it, obviously, and hopefully we continue to do it. I'm not opposed to it at all. I like that, especially when it confuses the defense. Especially when you're a team like us, and Brian Flores does like to send pressure times, and everything looks the same. So it's a good scheme, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the team is just not where it needs to be. And on offense too, we can talk about the offensive scheme. There were a lot of times where we caught the Cowboys in a blitz, and we threw it over their head, and it was a good play call. Like a lot of the plays we run, especially in that first half, were really good, and I thought the game plan was really good. But sometimes, when you look at your offensive line and you're like, none of you can block one-on-one, you have to keep extra people on the block. So what does that mean? It takes out people who can be eligible to catch the football down the field. So you have less people going out on passing routes, which makes your offense worse, especially if you can't run the football. And that's a big issue with this offense right now. So that's one thing that needs to get better. It's hard to tell if your team's a good, if Chad O'Shea's a good play caller, because he doesn't get the room to call plays with this offense. He's very limited on what the things he can call. And it's a lot of max protection, and it's very bad. And we had a lot of the same issues last year with, we ran a lot of max protection, a lot of 3-man routes, and we got absolutely drilled in those games. And that's what's happening, especially in these first 3 games. We just can't protect, and that limits some of the play calling on offense, and it sucks to watch. It's very tough, especially when a lot of the stuff that's happening is nobody else. It's not Josh's fault. The offensive line is just so poor that I mean, there's nothing. Again, there's not a lot you can do. You can't be comfortable with him dropping back and having 5 blockers out there. You're not going to feel comfortable doing that. And especially if you can't run the ball, play action is just pretty much useless. So yeah, it's tough to watch, but it is what it is. I'm glad that the offense is getting better though, and I'm very excited to see what they can do against the lesser teams. Now we're not gonna have an easy job with the Chargers coming up, especially with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, but hopefully we can salvage some of this against some lesser teams, because it's hard to watch this offense right now because of that and the limited things that they can do. So yeah, hopefully things get better. I mean, you can only hope, because at this point, I mean, it's very limited, and it's got to be tough on their coaches too. I mean, you're trying to put your player. You guys have to understand the fact that what they're doing is the only thing they can do. If they didn't do that, then Josh would just be getting hit literally every single play. Hopefully they can continue to find creative ways to try to get these guys the ball in their hands. It's really hard without a really good slot receiver to run some of those run after the catch plays, because there is really not a whole lot of that right now in the field, because Jakeem Grant, he can't get open on the outside, and he barely plays. He's not in there on first, second down. He's usually in there on third down, and it's really hurting hurts the team, because we just can't protect anyway. And if you notice, when we do have a third down that we need to pick up, a lot of the time we either line up in a heavy set with like 2 tight ends, or we in the shotgun, or we have 2 running backs on each hip with Josh Rosen. That's because that's basically another max protection set to give Josh more time, and you're only having basically 3, maybe 4 receivers out on the play, or you have a late release with a tight end, but he's not going downfield. So it's very, very, very tough. It's very, 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 very tough. So yeah, overall the defense is very disappointing, especially the secondary. I expect Xavier, with all the money we gave him, and I know Mark Cooper is a tough guard, but I'm not going to sit here and say he played well, because he didn't. And Bobby McCain this man cannot tackle, dude. I thought the one thing he would be able to do is tackle, but he has been missing a lot of open field plays. And to be honest with you, he is in a lot of these busted coverages issues. He's always in the picture, and that's an issue. For the last 2 years now, he's been a big part of that, and that's a problem. So, Bobby's a good player, at times, but he just did not have a good game this game at all. He had the interception, but that was literally it. And obviously, I don't even talk about Eric Rowe. In terms of good performances, Sam McGuavin looked really good. Jerome Baker looked good. Who else looked good? Jamal Wiltz. He looked good. He looked good for what he's. I think he gives good effort. I think he has good coverage most of the time. So, in terms of good performances, but yeah, just like to see our good players play like that. All right, let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry if I sound a little monotone, and I'm very sorry for all the noises in the background. My dog's either chewing on something, fighting each other, or there's a fan in the background, so I apologize for that. It's probably a little bit distracting. Alright, so let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen, where we answer fans' questions. We don't have a clip of the week this week. At least I don't think we do. Let me check really quick. I'm pretty sure we don't, but yeah, we do have this, though, which I felt before we get into the fan Q&A. Devon Gotcha kind of was feeling himself after the game and tweeted, this is a tweet from Devon Gotcha, "If they are the best of the line, then what am I?" And then Jordan Lewis responded with, "You're 0-3." And as a Dolphins fan, a diehard Dolphins fan, I'm glad someone said that to him, because what are you tweeting? What do you mean? Like, I mean, we had a good performance in the first half, but you didn't play 60 minutes of football. That's for dang sure. And yeah, we are 0-3. I don't care. I mean, like, honest to God, Devon, for the love of God, he deserved that so much, dude. Then what am I? Yeah, you're 0-3. That's what you are. For the love of God. Okay, so this first question comes from Alonzo. Alonzo asks, Skaggs, are you impressed with the coaching staff in regards to coaching, game planning, adjustments, and play calling? I mean, they're very limited. Like, they're very limited. On defense, you know, I feel like maybe we could be a little bit more aggressive at times with some of the blitz packages, because I feel like anytime a team is in the red zone is when we use a lot of those pressure packages. A lot of times on third down and distances, when they're not in our territory, we don't blitz a lot. And I feel like, you know, the reason we haven't done it against the Cowboys and the Ravens is because we don't want their quarterbacks obviously either breaking a sack or, you know, someone misses a sack and, you know, a big play happens because of it. Maybe that's one of the reasons we've done a lot of, you know, three-man rushes against those quarterbacks. But against Tom Brady, I feel like we didn't blitz a whole lot. And we only really blitzed him when he was in the red zone as well, if you watch that game. So, some of the tendencies are a little predictable, because, like I just said, in every single one of our games, the only time we've really pressured anybody is when teams are in the red zone. So, that, I think, needs to change a little. I think we need to sprinkle some of that in third and long. But other than that, I don't have an issue with anything, really. I do have an issue with this team, though, and some of the players on it. That was a good question, Alonzo. This next question comes from Jonathan. He says, Skaggs, I think we should I don't know if I said Alonzo. This question does not come from Alonzo. It comes from Jonathan. This next question comes from Jonathan. He says, Skaggs, I think we should think about trading Drake. We can't rely on someone who fumbles in the red zone. Too many guys fighting for this rebuild and destroying momentum as one of our veterans on the offense is unacceptable. Yes, I do agree with that. You know, when it happened, I was like, out of all the people that I think would have done that, Kenyon is not one of them. You know, it's one of those things. I mean, it's just one of those things, dude. Whether it's drop passes, third and longs, we're giving up, third and 20s, which you should never give up a third and 20. You know, like I said, drop passes, fumbles on punts. We had a fumble in this game on a punt that we actually didn't recover. It just, thank God, it just went out of bounds. Like, the little stuff. You know, Troy Aikman said one time when he was talking about when the team was 1-15, he said, the worst thing about being on a bad team is the easy things become really hard. And watching the games, you notice that. Like, the easy things are really hard. Like, getting off the field on third and super long, catching the football, fielding a punt, making a field goal, holding on to the football in the running game. All of those things are really easy things in football. Those are the easy things you have to accomplish. And we can't do those things. And, you know, those are probably the most true things I've ever heard a man say about football is when you're on a bad football team, the easy things become hard, and it's very hard to watch because of it. So it's not just Kenyon, it's the entire team. Did I expect Kenyon to add to the pile? No. But does that mean we should trade him? No. He's by far the best running back on the team. He's got by far the best vision, by far the best balance, and able to change direction, by far the best out of any of the running backs on this roster. So he needs to, if Kenyon left, I can't even speak, you get a lot of Kalen stopping his feet and just not knowing where to go instead of just, you know, putting his head down and going. And I think Kenyon learned a lot of that from Frank Gore, is just always being able to either gain 0 yards or gain 1 yard. And Kenyon's done a very good job of adding that to his game. But I agree. I mean, it is unacceptable. But a lot of things on this team is unacceptable. And, it sucks. I agree with you, man. It's rough. It's really rough. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, April 2020, our big day, the NFL draft. The Jets have beat us to the number one pick. Thoughts? Roll with Rosen or make a deal with the enemy. I don't think the enemy is taking a quarterback no matter how bad they are this year. They're not giving up on Sam Darnold that quick. But, I'm not joking around. I really do like Josh. He's looked really good. He really has. For the circumstances, he's looked really good. Seriously. The flea flicker play literally was all him. There was basically one receiver on the field doing anything, and then for him to avoid the pressure, keep his eyes downfield, like I said, make a really accurate throw on the run like that, deep down the field, is very impressive. Like, he's made some big-time throws. There's a lot of big-time throws that were dropped in that game. And he doesn't get any protection, so, it's hard not to, look at Rosen and think he has a lot of potential, but, I don't know what the Dolphins are going to do. I have no idea. Even if Rosen does play well, I don't know what the Dolphins are going to do. I couldn't tell you. But I don't think, even if the Jets have the first overall pick, I don't think they're going to take anyone the Dolphins want, like a Tua Tagovailoa. Maybe they take a D lineman that the Dolphins want, but I don't think it's going to come to. We're not going to lose a player that we really want. Let's just put it that way. If they had the number 1 overall pick. This next question comes from Ian. He says, how did you think Wilkins played? Can you evaluate the O-line play? Christian Wilkins, I've noticed, isn't on the field on third downs a lot, which is weird. He needs to be. We can't invest a first-round pick for him not to be a 3-down player. It's a lot of Avery Moss out there. I wish Christian would play a little bit more on third down. But sorry, guys. On the offensive line, it was good in the first half. It struggled when injuries and Jesse left the game. It struggled really bad. This next question comes from SM. He says, I never thought I would consider this question, but do you think the coach staff is not making halftime adjustments in order to lose? No. I don't know what you want them to do differently. When you guys, seriously, they don't have anything to work with, okay? They don't. It would take a dang miracle, for God's sakes, for this team to be a team like the Cowboys, who are a playoff contender, a division champion, possibly, okay? Like, we were up against the wall in that game, and we didn't help ourselves with all the dumb stuff we did in that game. So, it's not the coaches. It is legit the players. Like, the players are not good enough. They're just not. This next question comes from Alonzo. He says, guys, considering our schedule, which week will be our first win? I've thought about this a lot. So I think we can beat the Bills at home, and I think we definitely can beat the Jets, and I definitely think we can beat Pittsburgh, and I definitely think we can beat the Redskins. So I think those are possibly winnable. Those are winnable games. Let's just put it that way. The Chargers, it's going to be a tough game to win because they're just a good team, and they have a lot of, their defensive line is really good, and their offense is good, and, the thing that I'm worried about the most is that defensive line because of, Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, those games I think we can win. Okay, sorry, I got my questions mixed up. This next question comes from Mario. He says, what did you think on Josh Rosen's first start, and should we build around him? Are there any college players as of now that you like? College players that I like. I love Tua. He's a great player. I'm trying to think of anybody else. There's no one that's really standing out to me. Like Josh Allen, like last year, he really stood out to me as a great player. But there's no one really that I'm like, dang, there's not a Saquon Barkley. There's not somebody I'm like, that's, a special player. other than Tua, but he's a quarterback. So, Tua is the only one that really stands out to me, really. I mean, all the other great quarterbacks right now, like Jalen Hurts and, Jake Fromm, I just don't feel like, Justin Herbert's looked really good, I'll say that. But I just don't feel like those two are going to be great NFL quarterbacks. So I think Justin and Tua is pretty much the cream of the crop. I didn't think I would say that about Justin Herbert either, because last year I wasn't very high on him, but this year he looks like he has a lot of potential. He's a stronger dude than I thought he was. He's got a really, really, really good arm, like a really good arm. He's really accurate. He can keep the pocket alive. Like he's a very, very, very underrated player. And I really liked Josh Rosen's first start. It was really, really good. I liked it a lot. This next question comes from Burgess. He says, were you encouraged by the effort the team put out against the Cowboys? Yeah. I mean, we've had good effort all 3 games. It's just the mental stuff, dude. Outplayed imagine everybody's like, dude, the Dolphins are up on the Cowboys at halftime, and we should have been. We outplayed them in the first half. We outplayed them, and I don't understand why we have the worst luck on the planet, but we do. So it sucks, man. And the coaches should deserve a high five for that. Like, they put the team in positions to win, and they just couldn't do it. This next question comes from Edward. He says, thank you, sir, for all you do. In your opinion, do you think we look good as a team? No, Edward. We look terrible. We look god-awful. But I appreciate that. I appreciate the compliment there. This next question comes from Bahamas Dolphins. He says, did you see any improvement in the team today? Offensively, there was. Defensively, for me, it was a step back. Just the secondary, the tackling in the secondary was very poor. Just a lot of mental errors that were just mind-boggling. And like the 3rd and 20 to Jason Witten is the worst one. Like, I don't understand what is wrong with that. Like, there's a lot of plays that just shouldn't have happened. A lot of third longs that shouldn't have been converted. I haven't seen teams play this aggressive on 3rd and long ever. Like, anytime teams are 3rd and 20 and 3rd and 15 against us, they're legit trying to pick the first down up. A lot of the time you see teams just be super conservative, but we're really struggling to get off the field. We have to get off the field on those downs, dude. Like, you just can't give those up. Those are, I'll tell you something right now. If you ever give a 3rd and long like that, I don't care if you're playing Madden or playing real life football, you are going to give up a touchdown, or at the very least, a field goal on that drive. It's almost guaranteed. So yeah, I did see improvement in the team. The defense has to play a little better than they did, though. And the defensive line, like I said, in the first half, and the secondary in the first half, they played well, but the second half was just not good. Like, if X played better, this game would have been a little bit different than it was, but, it is what it is. This next question comes from Dez. He says, finally, good to see Rosa start, as he had a solid performance. Also, the Steelers are 0-3 now, so that's a plus. My question is, your thoughts on Taco this game and for the future of the Dolphins? I thought Taco played well for a player that hasn't been on the team more than a week. As for the future for this team, it's potentially very, very bright. Here's the thing that I would say is the best argument for this happening. The best argument for this happening and doing what we're doing is that nothing has worked for the last 20 years. We have one playoff win in 20 years. This team just hasn't been the same the last 2 decades, and it has been in its very, very, very successful past. It just hasn't been. So the one thing that we haven't tried is what we're doing now, and I don't think we've ever had this many draft picks. I know for a fact we haven't had this many draft picks. So the one thing to be looked forward to is at least they're trying something different to win. It's not the same dang thing over and over again. They're trying something different, and it has worked for a lot of different franchises, but it's also hasn't worked for a lot of other franchises, more so than the ones that have actually worked. But the one thing I will say is at least we're trying something different. That's the only argument that I'm like, it's foolproof. No one can argue against that. It's true. It's true. At least we're trying something different. And I think that's a good thing. And hopefully we can reap the rewards for it. So that's what I think for the Dolphins' future. This next question comes from SM. He says, you have your pick, Rosen, Tua, or Lawrence. Definitely not Trevor Lawrence. Not because he's not good, just because I'm not waiting that long. Tua or Rosen. That's very tough. I mean, that's very tough. I want to see more of Josh, because I'm leaning toward Josh. I'm not even gonna lie. I have to see more though. It's not a definitive. And I love Tua. I love Tua. He's a great quarterback. So I love both of them though. I liked both of them coming out of college. That's a tough one for me. I'm gonna have to continue to see Josh play. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, "What did you think of my mock draft?" What do you think of my mock draft? This comes from Corporate Gamer. First overall, and the last question came from SM, by the way, in case I didn't say. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, "What did you think of my mock draft?" What do you think of my mock draft? He says, "First overall to Steelers likely top pick Tyler Bediaz. He can play offensive guard. Bediaz. Texans pick Bryce Hall. Second round pick best overall tackle. Second round pick best overall pass rusher. Third round pick best available center." So you went offensive line. Let's see here. Three times. And quarterback with the first overall pick. Pass rusher. And then... okay, so I need to watch more of these guys because I have barely watched... I mean, I've watched college games, but I just haven't watched enough. So I would have to watch a little bit more, but it's not bad. I like where your head's at position-wise. This next question comes from Bad Bandit. He asks, "Skaggs, I don't think we should worry about a quarterback this year. There are too many holes right now. I think in the first round we should target Chase Young, Jerry Jeudy, Jonathan Taylor. We need a pass rusher immediately and a receiver that can actually catch. I'm not out on Drake, Balaj. Let's find a real stud running back, and let's spend the rest of the picks on linemen, cornerbacks. Your thoughts?" Lineman needs to be more of like I've said this many times, but lineman I feel like you should get in free agency. That's just how I feel about the whole situation. Not defensive linemen necessarily, but offensive linemen. I think if you want success earlier on, then you should do it through free agency. Defensively, okay, so I love Jerry Jeudy. He's going to be a great player. I would love to have Jerry Jeudy on the team. But in the grand scheme of things, depending on what we generate in free agency is really going to affect if I'm going to pick Jerry Jeudy or not. And who's left on the board. I think this team does need a receiver, though. It really does. It needs a more consistent number one receiver. Now, Preston Williams can become that and develop into that, but he needs to be better. Listen, this man would have... his stats would look a lot better if he just could catch some of these passes. And I think that comes with being a rookie, and I think he's going to get better. But when you think about the rest of the roster, the team definitely, and I'm not saying they need to pick Jerry Jeudy, but the team definitely needs to target a slot receiver at some point this upcoming offseason, because that's desperately needed in this offense. And hopefully Albert Wilson can become that. But all of the guys you highlighted here are very good. Jonathan Taylor, I kind of question. I would have to rewatch some of his games, but some of the things that I've seen from him, I question some of his explosiveness a little bit. But he could be a really good downhill runner in an offense. Like, he reminds me a little bit of Mark Ingram, if I had to compare someone to him. And just his running style. This next question comes from Traps. He says, what is up, Skaggs? He says, I hope your And the last question came from Bad Bandit, and I don't think I said that, but that was a great question. This next question comes from Chaps. He asks, "What is up, Skaggs? I hope you're not as upset as last week's performance, but this loss has some glimpses that I think are promising. I think we got skimped on the onside kick and possibly the touchdown catch by Preston Williams, as well as the no call of roughing the passer. Josh Rosen is obviously sliding. I agree with everything you just said, and the hit on Alan Hearns was illegal. That was an illegal hit. That was helmet to helmet. That should have been flagged. The defense was somewhat impressive at times, but I felt as if Xavier Towers' performance was somewhat lackluster. Seemed like he was giving up a lot of big plays, giving up on plays. Yeah, like the touchdown, the post of the touchdown, I felt like he could have done a better job on that. But yeah, I see what you're saying when you say that, for sure. He says, "Do you think that was a bad performance, or is it frustration on how things are going in the front office and locker room? With over $120 million to cap space this offseason, what free agent acquisitions do you think is under Greer's radar? Thank you for the podcast, Traps." Thank you for commenting that. I really appreciate that. So, yeah, I agree with all those things that you highlighted in terms of non-calls or missed opportunities. Yes, Xavier Howard did not have a good game. I hope Chris targets the line of scrimmage, and specifically the offensive line in free agency. The sixth question comes from Ron. He asks, "Skaggs, when will Flores and O'Shea finally see how garbage Kalen Ballage is? I've been saying this since OTAs, all of camp, then preseason. How bad Ballage is and where we are in week 3 with 3 straight blowouts, with Ballage averaging less than 1 yard carry. It's 0.6 to be exact. This is beyond embarrassing, bro. Win for real." I don't know. I mean, he is the backup running back. Ballage did get more carries, barely though. Kenyon led the team in carries with 13. Ballage had 8. So yeah, it does need to be better. Kenyon's just a better player though. Like, you can just tell he's just a better player. The way he runs the football. It's just it's at a higher level. So yeah, I mean, Kalen definitely needs to play better for sure. This next question comes from Jackpack18. He says, "Would you rather fix the O-line in this draft and stick with the Rosen for a season and take a quarterback in 2021, or take a quarterback this year, get some defensive talent, defensive end / cornerback, and then try to fix the O-line in free agency?" I definitely want to try to fix the offensive line in free agency, but you know, the Josh Rosen versus take a quarterback this upcoming season, we all have to be a little bit more patient on that. I want to see him play more before I make a definitive answer. By the end of the year, I think we'll all have our answer. This next question comes from Take Me Out. He says, "Hi, Skaggs. I'm going to try to keep this positive. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost and are 0-3. This is great news. If the idea is to tank, then we were successful today, and I don't mean that with sarcasm. I am proud that with the team depleted of talent, they continue to seem to fight. That is good for the culture. I'm good going with Rosen for next year if things continue on this path, because he shows a lot of promise and does things very well. It's just the talent around him that is letting him down. I don't see anything that Tua brings to the table that Rosen can't give you. I'd rather spend my picks in the trenches." I completely agree with that if Rosen continues to play like he does. And he looked really good. The one thing that Rosen can't do that Tua does, though, is just his ability to run is not on Tua's level. I would say it's the biggest difference. But other than that, I think Josh has a better deep ball than Tua, for sure. That if I had to bring up something that Josh does better than Tua. But yeah, I agree with everything you said there. You know, it sucks to lose. It really does. It hurts. And hopefully we can win some of these games upcoming. I really do hope we can. And yeah, I think Brian is doing a great job of coaching these guys. I really do believe that. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, "Why was Howard so bad?" I don't know. He just had a very bad game. Amari Cooper is a hard guard one-on-one, though. He's a good route runner. And the Cowboys did a good job of giving him opportunities and running good plays off of motions and actions. They did a good job of that. This next question comes from Ahmed. He says, did Dallas D-line play poorly, or did Miami's offensive line overperform? The team is so poorly coached. Extreme mental lapses from the entire receiving corps and X. Do you have faith in this coaching squad to deliver next year? I don't think it's the coaching. I think it's the players. I really do believe that. They are put in positions to make a play. Like all of those drops on the defensive side of the ball, all of those third and longs that should not have been given up, and Xavier Howard just didn't have a good game. So, yeah, that's what I would say about that. I don't think it's the coaches. I really do believe it's the players. This next question comes from Ron. He says, Alan Hearns is out with a concussion. Jesse Davis hurt his leg. No word on how bad. And right guard Danny Isadora was seen after the game in a boot. During the game, we moved Michael Dieter to left tackle and put Evan Boehm at left guard. Who the heck is going to play on the O-line? We have nobody on the PS that I am aware of. You're right. I mean, that was the last question, by the way. You're right. It's very scary. Hopefully Jesse comes back healthy, because when he got hurt and Michael Dieter had to move out to tackle, it was rough. It was really bad. I mean, he's a rookie and he's playing two different positions. So yeah, hopefully Jesse can come back at least against the Redskins. If he misses the Chargers game, that's going to be really rough because of the Chargers defensive line. But yeah, it's going to be even more tough if Jesse can't go. So that's going to be it, guys. That is it for this week's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your Sunday of football. Even though the Dolphins, fought really hard in the first half, should have been leading at the half, outplayed the Cowboys. Josh Rosen looks really good. There's a lot of things to be excited about for the future of this football team. And if Josh Rosen continues to play like this, I do think he will be the quarterback for the foreseeable future. And that's good for this team because they can focus on other things and building around him. Once you have a quarterback, everything else is pretty much gravy. That's for dang sure. So that's a really, and especially if he is the franchise quarterback for years to come. Let's just say hypothetically, then this team is set, ladies and gentlemen. It's set. We would really have to mess up everything not to build this team around him. I like the coaching staff a lot. Once this defense gets more talent on it, this offense, and if Josh Rosen is the answer, this team is going to be good for a long time in the future. The hardest thing to find in the National Football League is a quarterback. It's not even close. So if we found ours, that's great. And you certainly looked like it on Sunday. Hopefully you can keep it up. So at least we have that, ladies and gentlemen. Every week we can look forward to Josh Rosen trying his hardest to carry this team to some kind of points. And if he can continue to do that on a consistent basis and continues to get better week to week, then, ladies and gentlemen, we found him. Number 3, for years we've been trying to replace Marino, and Josh could be that man. And if he is that man, then again, like I just said and like I just stated, everything else will be a lot easier, and a lot of pressure will be taken off. If I could speak, a lot of pressure will be lifted off of Chris Grier's shoulders. I really do believe that because he doesn't have the pressure to find a franchise quarterback, and so at least we have that. That is going to be it, guys. That is it for this week. Tell me what you guys thought about Josh Rosen down in the comment section below. And I'm Skax83, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode.